start with Matt Zemek, who is obviously editor of Trojans Wire, helps host the various shows in the USC channel. We're going to start with Matt himself. We got Matt here. Fight on. How you doing?
Ready for game week. This is going to be fun. And, I've listened to you for the past 10, 15 minutes. Didn't listen at the very start of the show, but caught you the past 10 minutes. Lots of solid observations. I think that the point about LSU not looking very good, we have to take that into context with USC. Just how good is that LSU win? I mean, obviously it was a great win to start the season, and LSU does have a lot of talent, but LSU is not well coached. And also LSU's offensive line, which, guys in Louisiana were saying, this is the best offensive line I've ever seen. Well, that was a preseason observation, and it definitely hasn't held up well. So that goes into, a recalibration of matchups in the trenches, which, in my mind are going to be front and center in this game. Pun not intended. That's where this game's going to be won or lost. Does Miller Moss get time? Does he get a clean pocket on the road in the big house? Does he get a comfort zone? Or does that Michigan defensive line, which, got a real education from Texas, does that, that could help Michigan, right? You went up against the best, Texas
number one in the country. Yeah.
Texas looks the part, and that could be the best thing for Michigan going into this game. So my view is I'm expecting a slugfest. I'm expecting a rock fight. This could be Woody versus Bo, 1973.
Absolutely.
That kind of game.
Well, let's see what.
It could be your grandfather's 3 yards in a cloud of dust on Saturday afternoon. So, I'm seeing lots of people pick USC 30-17, 33-18, 34-20. I'll take the ugliest 13-12 win you've ever seen, and we'll ride out of town a happy man.
Well, let's see what Mr. Tim Prangley. Let's see if he agrees. Bo versus Woody. How about that? Tim Prangley, host also Trojan Conquest Live, coming up in about an hour and a half. Conquest Call-In Show and Trojans Wire. Tim, thanks for joining us, man.
No, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Well, I don't know about Bo versus Woody, because I don't think I don't think Woody had the receivers that USC has. So I think this is not going to be a slugfest, Matt. I think this game will be decided through the air. And I do think that USC has the better athletes on the outside. Will Johnson's awesome. I have nightmares of Miller Moss throwing some of those balls in a flat he's got away with earlier this season that he easily could have possibly just out of the reach of the defensive backs from going for 6 the other way. I don't think that he'll have that room with Will Johnson, especially. But I'm not sure if it's gonna be a slugfest. No, Matt, I'm not sure on that one. We'll see. Matt's usually right, but I'm not seeing
your boy Adam, who you both know very well, and he comes on to our channels too and supports, and great dude. Has defended Michigan in various instances, but this week he's fight on, and I'd be the same way. So I got him. $20 here. USC will wear down the Michigan defense, which, while good, doesn't have the same depth as last year, and accordingly will get fatigued. That's the difference. So he's already giving his prediction. We're not. You're a little ahead of us, Adam, but that's okay because you gave $20, so that's fine. But he's giving his prediction 30-17. So what do you think? What do you? Let's get TJ's take first, and then we'll get your guys' take on that comment.
Well, I'll say this: we all saw against Texas something we're not used to seeing. And that was a defense who was exhausted in the second quarter. We're not used to that. Our defense actually never gets exhausted, but we're starting to see signs of that this year, which is very interesting. There is a bit lack of depth. They've tried to rotate guys. So, for example, against Texas, we put in our backup defensive lineman, and they got pushed off the ball. And it's now we do have Rayshon Benny. He's very good. So we have about 3 defensive tackles we can rely on right now. But against Arkansas State, we put in our second unit, and our second unit's the ones who gave up all those points at the end of the game. So we are very reliant on our starters right now. We also are seeing our defense get gassed, which I'm not used to seeing. So if this is a track meet like Tim Pringley is forecasting, then we could be in for a defense that is exhausted. And this is why it is key that Michigan sustains drives and stays on schedule. If they can because against Texas, we in the very beginning of the game, we kept stalling. And then eventually our defense wore down. And our defense could not stop them on third down. If we can attempt to get USC off the field and we can sustain drives, then that is when it will be a ball game. If we do not do that, then Tim's is probably going to be accurate in his prediction.
Yeah, the USC guys.
So what do you guys think about that?
Let me ask you guys. So obviously with Orgy in and Davis Warren out, it's probably going to, the needle's going to move more toward the run, but Orgy's going to have to throw, right? To keep the box light, to keep USC from just ganging up at the line of scrimmage. So what do you think in terms of sequencing? I always like to get into first down, second down. Do you try and establish the run on 1st and 10, or do you throw the 6-yard pass on first down to try and get into second and short, medium, manageable? It's going to be a balancing act, because obviously if Michigan can pound the ball for 5 yards on first down, like that's the ideal. But you might have to be throwing on first down, at least early in this game in the first quarter, to lighten up that tackle box and keep USC guessing. So how do you think the Michigan staff sequences its plays first, second down?
So unfortunately, I think we're going to be predictable. I really do. And the reason why I say that is because we have not seen any creativity of our scheme, of our play calling yet. We've actually seen our coaches put our players so far this season in positions where it kills momentum. They make very poor choices. Now, it does appear, though, they are committing to a quarterback, so we won't see this dual quarterback juggling they were doing earlier in the year against Texas and Fresno State. But my concern, so what we will see on first down, do your prop bets, do whatever, they're running the ball. They're running the ball on first down. You can just, if we see, I'll tell you this, though, if we do see creativity out of the coaching staff and they start doing some play action or some nice, short to mediate roll, or even, some rollouts, some strong RPOs, then we're talking. But I just haven't seen it this year, guys. Like, just that's where we are. Like right now, I think the fan base, as well as myself, our trust in the coaching staff is a bit dwindled at the moment. And we're just in observation mode, trying to understand, are they in over their heads on some of this? Because although I will say this, obviously Shermore was offensive coordinator last year. He coordinated a championship caliber offense. He got the job done, but we are not seeing that creativity this year at all. Like what we did against Alabama. Now, again, Orgy's a different quarterback than JJ, so it's a bit different. You have to go with different strategies here. But at the same time, the creativity has been lacking. And the feel for the game has been lacking. So it's a bit of a concern on Michigan's end right now.
Yeah, 2 words. Read option. What I want to happen versus what I think is going to happen are 2 very different things. What I think is going to happen is read option over and over and over and over again. Sometimes it goes to Orgy. Sometimes it's Mullings. Maybe you get lucky and there's on Maze Madman last night, we talked about a running back screen that we haven't seen since last year's team with Corum. So there are some things that I think they might go with. A lot of it depends on if Colston Loveland is fully healthy, to be honest with you, because Colston Loveland, I don't know if y'all have been playing college football 25, or even if you've just watched Colston. Out of everybody in the pass game, he is the one player that consistently gets separation, that consistently is an obvious option for whoever's the quarterback. And you could talk about the other receivers and tight ends as much as you want, but if he's healthy and playing, I think that's when you start to see things open up a little bit, because he can, even with Alex Orgy not being the best passer, he can catch the ball with pretty much. I think if some of us go out there, we might be able to throw the ball successfully to Colston Loveland. He's that good. He's 6'5". So I think that he's a big factor. I want to get your guys' take on that too, but I do want to thank Moose, because Moose just gifted 5 memberships. So congratulations to Philip Buford, Jason Bode, Keegan Imhoff, Les Austin, and Tez.
Nice.
All of you just got Those Who Stay Will Be Champions memberships for 30 days. Congratulations. And thanks to Moose for once again being the Oprah and giving out some memberships for everybody. Really appreciate you, man. And I hope everybody enjoys their membership. But yeah, I want to kind of dive into the defense. And we've talked a little bit about this on Conquest Collins' show. I think I asked this question, either called in or asked this question. But we kind of diving into it's only been one offseason. However, unlike with Ohio State, unlike with other programs that have implemented a new defensive system, defensive coordinator, something remarkable has happened here. I'm gonna give you your flowers. All of a sudden, USC has at least a top 40 defense when they did have a lot, not so much. Let's be real. They can tackle now, like players can tackle. There are things that he's doing. I'd love to just get your takes on, maybe a factor from each of you or two factors from each of you on what he's implemented that has caused USC to actually create stops and cause third down stops and fourth down stops and all that good stuff.
Well, so the issue is not really the tackling and it's not the players. Last year it was really a scheme issue. And I think that Lincoln Riley did a good job talking about this after practice, saying that it's amazing, when you see better tackling, it's not necessarily better technique, although they have been, I've watched them. There's been a lot of emphasis on tackling at practice, but it's really just having guys in position to make plays. You can have a great athlete out there, put them in a bad position, and then they got to make a tackle against a Division I athlete. I mean, I don't know if anyone ever here has tried to tackle someone out in open space. It's not one of the easiest things in the entire world to do. Placing your team in a position to be successful is one of the biggest things that have changed. Another thing that's happened is you've seen the evolution of the coaching and the development. So that is a big portion of the tackling. It's clear and evident. It's been an emphasis for them to get more physical and to work on their tackling. But Riley really downplayed that part of it. He really just said, you know what, the guys are in position, they're making plays. Maybe his nicest way he could say that last year they didn't know what the hell they were doing. And going back, if we could, though, going back to you guys talked about Colston. Is there any word on him? Because here's the thing. I'm wondering if they're going to more of a run game because you got your best receiver now questionable. I'm sure he's going to play. But we all know also, just because he's going to suit up and play doesn't mean he's at 100%. And if you're a receiver, you kind of need that arm. Do you guys have any idea? Like, I'm sure TJ's watched the film. Do you know what's actually probably injured? Is it shoulder, elbow, wrist? What is it?
So I don't know what's injured, but so apparently the injury is less severe than anticipated. And the speculation is he may play this weekend. They don't know. Right? It hasn't been confirmed yet. So he may play. I mean, obviously this is a major game. So if he's going to play or if he can play, he will play. I would expect that. But I don't know the word. I know we have it here. We'll see. Hogan Hanson's going to get an expanded role. That's the backup to the F-type tight end. I mean, I would also anticipate more Marlon Klein. We started to see him last week. There's been a lot of hype out of him out of camp. But yeah, I mean, listen, if he can't play, then our most dynamic offensive threat is eliminated, which is a major problem for us. So, and plus with a quarterback like Alex Orgy, a tight end is one of the best matches you can have. So we'll see. I mean, I would say it appears it's like a 60-70% chance he'll play. It appears, but I mean, it's so early to know. It's only Tuesday, so we don't know yet.
I know. Hey, drugs are great. If it's a pain thing, you can play through it. Drugs are wonderful. Right. But again, at some point, if you are injured and you're receiving quarterback, a receiving a tight end, it's again a question. I thought right away, again, when I heard Orgy was the call, I kind of scratched it. I know that ball security has been an issue, but at the same time, isn't there a reason why Alex Orgy wasn't named the starting quarterback behind multiple quarterbacks during the season? So I'm not sure. I mean, I see a lot of optimism. I'm listening to you guys, but I'm wondering, what is it that you've got you so optimistic about? Because we know how a one-dimensional, if you go one-dimensional against in modern defenses, it's really tough unless you have a super elite offense. Like maybe your offensive line last year could probably lean and do it, but with a questionable offensive line seemingly going towards a run-heavy offense, one-dimensional. What is the avenue you see that they could do that and be successful?
TJ, I know you want to hit this one first. So go
first of all, we were kind of sold a bill of goods during camp. So first of all, there was a lot of hype around Orgy, and not only it wasn't just things leaking from practice. Every single insider, every single journalist who was getting, because I don't know about USC how they do practice during fall camp, but it is closed off to anybody. No one can see anything at camp for Michigan. So there was a lot of hype out of Alex Orgy, looking more polished as a passer, going through his progressions, more comfortable in the pocket. And the word was out of camp all the way up until the final week that Alex Orgy was QB1. And then the word is Davis Warren had an astounding final week of camp, 80% completion percentage, like 87% is like the actual figure. And he just looked amazing and he stole the job. That was the word out of Ann Arbor, is he stole the job. So they made him QB1. They made Davis Warren QB1. And it's like, well, and then the word, and then like the speculation or the smoke was, well, it wasn't that Alex Orgy lost the job. Alex Orgy played really well. Davis Warren just overtook it, right? But then we saw during the game, Tim and Matt, the way they were utilizing Orgy, it looked like they don't trust him. So we're very skeptical. As a fan base, we are all skeptical. Like there's optimism because going into the season, we believe that Alex Orgy, many people in the Michigan community, of course, you have your side. Some people are Team Tuttle or Team Warren. But going into the year, majority of us wanted to see Alex Orgy because we think he gives us the highest ceiling, because we saw him actually perform very well in spring ball. And he showed his dual capabilities, and he was actually was throwing at a 70% clip. He looked pretty good. But when he gets into games, the way the coaching staff utilized him, it almost was like they were afraid to call any passing plays. And then he did have one play where he rolled out to the right and he completely threw the ball and it went to the dirt, like 5 feet away from the receiver. So it was and then we were like, oh, okay, there's a problem here. So I think as a fan base, we are cautiously optimistic because we believe in the theory of Alex Orgy, but we have not seen it come to light yet. And I'll tell you this though, Tim and Matt, if he was truly the guy, he would have started week 1. There's a reason it's there's a reason it's week 4, Big Ten play.
At least we hope. At least we hope that they have enough of an ability to evaluate.
Yeah.
And they're putting the right conditions in practice, and we're taking that a little bit on faith because of what they did last year. But we need to remember that, number one, a lot of coaches are now playing are now in the NFL, either at the Chargers, the Seahawks. I think there's one somewhere else. But a lot of them went to the NFL, and some of the key talent on the offense also did. But I'm talking about coaches because they create the scenarios in practice where these quarterbacks are going up against the 1s, the 2s, 3, and they come up with all of these things in the various days of practice and what drills do they work on and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm a little concerned at their ability. I'm going to just say it. I'm a little concerned right now in their ability to pick the guy. And I wasn't, before this season, but I know that Alex Orgy, if nothing else, let's say he throws half of his passes into the freaking dirt. Okay. He's not giving them to the other team. That's good. Okay. He's not, and he's running the ball. So I think, let's see what they can draw up. But at the very least, I think he's going to do better. At least I hope, than 3 picks. And knock on wood, I'm knocking on the wood right now. But we'll see. I do want to get to 3 super chats, if you don't mind, guys. Blue Wolverine 999. I really enjoy the mixed panels. We do too, Blue. And we also thank you because, Blue, you have been really awesome on our show. I know Cliff and Mac and others like you have been out there, and we really appreciate you. And that's why you have an emoji. Can everybody drop the blue? If you're a member, you could drop the blue Wolverine emoji in chat right now. Thank you so much for your $9.99. GT, $5 here. I think Michigan has to keep USC around 20 points in order to win this game, which is a pretty tall order. I would agree with you, GT. That is a pretty tall order, knowing the offensive, the abilities of Lincoln Riley to play call for Miller Moss, which I commented. Remember in the bowl game, I said, wait a minute. It seems like he's actually calling plays better for Miller Moss than he did at times for Caleb. Like, it just seems to flow so much better with Miller Moss for some reason. So I guess, I'd love to get your guys' take on that super chat. Like, do you think that's the scenario that Michigan has to keep USC to 20 points?
Matt?
I would say this. I think 20 is the number if USC doesn't hand Michigan, a defensive touchdown or special teams touchdown. And I think that really gets to the heart of this game on the most elemental central level. If Michigan has to work hard for all its points, meaning no defensive touchdowns, no special teams touchdowns, and it has to drive 70 or more yards every time, it doesn't get a short field, it doesn't get a kick return, any of that, USC probably wins. But if Michigan can get points from defense and special teams, like then the normal conventional wisdom, how many points Michigan's going to need to hold USC to goes out the window. So really the 20 points holds. The 20 points is pretty much right if USC does not hand deliver any freebies to Michigan.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Matt. I mean, I was going to say this for our show late in about an hour or so, but I mean, since you got a super chat, I'll throw it out there. The keys to the game for me are ball security by SC. USC takes care of the ball. I think it might be pretty tough for Michigan to win this game. That's how I feel. SC can't settle for field goals. SC has been sloppy in the red zone with penalties, drop balls. Ended up costing about 10 points against LSU. They can't do that because points could be a premium. Everyone's writing off, not everyone. There are many people in the nation writing off Michigan's defense, and they're crazy. This is a solid defense. It's going to test USC. And then the last thing's penalties. Like Matt just said, we can't help out Michigan's offense by extending plays with dumb penalties and vice versa. We can't make dumb mistakes against a good defense, ending drives on offense. So if SC plays the basic is if SC plays a clean game, and they score, more than 20 points, I would find it very difficult for Michigan to win this game, in my opinion.
Okay, TJ.
No, I mean, I think if we can hold USC to 20 points, then that's definitely a path to victory. And I agree with Tim here, where if USC plays a clean game, no turnovers, no bad penalties, I do find it a far more steeper climb for Michigan to get this victory, given what we've seen. Now, hopefully week 4, we see a team going into Big Ten play who's extremely motivated with a fire under their ass because they have a lot to prove. They know in the locker room, they know what's being said. So, it's on them to step up this week and really make a statement to the world, because this is going to be a primetime game here. Like everyone's going to be watching USC Michigan. You know what I mean? So we're looking at a heavyweight matchup. In theory, we'll see if Michigan comes to the plate. I mean, I'm less concerned about USC. Well, I'm concerned about USC, but for this to be the heavyweight matchup, we think it has the potential to be. I think USC is coming to play. I just hope Michigan is as well. That's the concern, because we have seen Michigan, unfortunately, falter to another elite juggernaut in college football right now, and that's Texas. So, but I think if Michigan can hold them to 20, we have a great opportunity to get the victory.
Yeah, that word if Michigan can hold USC to 20, that word if is doing a lot of lifting, given what Miller Moss is able to do. And there was a comment, I think, from a USC fan earlier that said, watch out for USC's tight ends, because everybody always talks about the wide receiver talent. And of course, we all know that Lincoln Riley can coach, he can get quarterbacks coached up to a very elite level. And we know that the wide receiver talent's there. But I thought that comment was extremely interesting, because I don't normally think USC tight ends. But that comment was in there, and I would love to just hear your take on that. Like, how does Miller Moss need to feed the receivers and the tight ends here to win in the pass game?
Want me to go, Matt?
Sure.
In the pass game, yeah, it's well, you saw two things. You saw, especially in the game, where you have both. They've been running with the run game. They've been putting in. They're doing two. It's not 12 personnel because you have Lake McCree lined up in the backfield. Really, it's like a 21, and then you got an H back. Depending on who it's going to be slotted out. So they're using that to run. But as a whole, you saw if you drop your safeties back, Miller will pick you apart over the middle, right? He'll just drop it right in. And if you try to stack the line, they're athletic. Lake McCree has shown that he's athletic enough to go out and make catches. Yeah, I mean, recently, this is the most we've seen Riley use his tight ends. Late in the Helton era, the tight ends just disappeared. But I mean, throughout history, USC's had solid tight end play. But as of recent, I would have to say, yeah, probably not. But if you have Eldridge and Lake McCree,
wow,
that way they got it lined up, it's pretty impressive.
like that's a tight end has the most receiving yards out of every personnel on here. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's definitely something I wasn't expecting, and really impressive.
One thing for me to add on in all this is that, if you watch that LSU game closely, USC did a lot of wide receiver screens and like short hitch patterns, really quick stuff outside the numbers to give Miller Moss just some easy completions. It was week one. You just get him into a rhythm, just easy pitch and catch. LSU began to really bite down on those wide receiver screens on the edges. And you saw USC then go to the tight end along the hash marks in the middle third of the field as the mid-game adjustment to LSU biting down on the wide receiver screens. So it was not like the first point of attack against LSU. It was an adjustment to LSU coming up hard on the outside, on the boundaries. So it's going to be interesting to see how Lincoln Riley, who, he makes defenses account for the full width and length of the field. And so whether the tight end is like his first attack point or whether it's an adjustment, it's a secondary attack point that flows from the first attack point, that's going to be a natural plot point for this game in terms of how USC goes at Michigan's defense.
Got a couple more super chats here. Tim, prepare thyself for Nick's $1.99 kamikazes, as he likes to do. Usually it's to the Buckeyes, to be fair. Okay, 99% of them are to the Buckeyes. But in this case, obviously with USC week, Tim, you're ready to get whipped Saturday. USC is so soft. Wow. I don't think they're as soft as third base Ryan Day.
That's a 2023 thing. USC ain't soft no more.
I don't think so. I
think Nick's been drinking too many of his own 199 kamikazes. I think that's Nick's problem. And I'll tell you, Nick, a lot of people told us, not just LSU fans, but the national media, how soft we were and how LSU is going to run the ball down our throat. That was literally what people were saying. And you know what? That's also what you guys said in 2007. I'm just going to leave that right there as well. How they're going to come out and beat the Surfer Boys. That didn't work out too well for your quarterback. Was it Henny? I don't know if it was Henny. I can't remember who said this comment. So, I mean, hey, look, you know what? Who knows? They play the game on the field. Maybe you guys will come take it to us, but history hasn't been kind to people that talk smack like that to USC.
Yeah, and here's a more positive one. So Moose is agreeing with you, Tim, on the Orgy situation. He is not on the Orgy hype train. He was actually a Davis Warren. He was going for Davis Warren there. But yeah, Orgy obviously getting the start now. I'll believe it when I see it Saturday. I think that's the mentality of a lot of Michigan fans. I'll believe it when I see it because the first three games.
We're
cautiously optimistic. Go ahead, Tim.
When something's not working, John, you guys have talented athletes on your team. Sometimes you got to go to the relief pitcher. Do you know what I mean? And who knows? He comes in. And by the way, the bullpen's not. You could just because you guys are starting Orgy doesn't mean Orgy finishes the game either. I mean, if he gets out there and struggles, they're going to have to pull him. But I mean, we're gonna have to see
God,
this.
I hope
It's a nice wrinkle. It's a good wrinkle to have, right? If it's not working in the passing game, the guy's a great athlete, and we'll see on Saturday.
So there's a historical callback to make here, all right, at USC. And obviously Michigan fans are hoping that this comes even remotely close. At USC, there is a proven instance of USC not having the right quarterback through the first 3 games of the season, and then a new quarterback being inserted in week 4. That quarterback who was inserted in week 4 won the rest of the games USC played that season. He beat Penn State in the Rose Bowl. He's the only, he's the quarterback who made Clay Helton, a terrible football coach, look good. That guy's name was Sam Darnold. Yep,
Yes,
that's right. So he came in week 4 after Clay Helton just, couldn't have coached his way out of a wet paper bag in the first 3 weeks of the season. So hey, there's your parallel, Michigan fans.
There we go.
A coaching staff absolutely trips over its shoelaces the first 3 weeks, and then we make a change in week 4, and everything happens for the better.
Oh man.
So there's a historical precedent. We at USC hope that history does not repeat itself.
I hope you're not expecting me to defend you, Matt. when next week people come at you saying that you compared Orgy to Sam Darnold. Now listen, Sam Darnold played on some, especially at 27. The next year was pretty rough, and that wasn't Sam's fault. That was just a team thing. But you just compared Orgy to Sam Darnold, who is like saint-like during those dark times at USC. So I'm just gonna leave that out there for you, okay?
And I'm surprised he didn't come at you on the Clay. I thought Clay Helton was a banned phrase over there. But.
Only when you're losing, John. Winning fixes all that stuff. We've all been there as a program.
No.
You hang on to the losses until you start winning again. As who? What? Yeah, that's Georgia Southern's problem.
I'm just saying that a week 4 quarterback change has helped USC before. Yeah. We'll see if it helps Michigan. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying Michigan is going to become this maize and blue steamroller the next 9 weeks.
What Matt's really saying is the stars are aligning. The stars are aligning, and Orgy's going to turn to Jalen Milroe, is what he's saying. So I get it. I appreciate it, Matt. Thank you.
Well, I
think on a serious note, on a more serious note, this is what I find particularly interesting about the Orgy situation. Some USC beat writers have mentioned, wait, why did Sharon Moore make this public? Why didn't he just spring the surprise on Saturday? I'm sure there are plenty of Detroit Red Wings fans in the chat, and you all know that in the playoffs, they talk about upper body injury, or they're not gonna specify which body part. They don't want to put a little target on your elbow or your hip or whatever. So point being that this is Sharon Moore could have been cloak and dagger like an NHL coach about this, but no, he just put it out there. He didn't try to surprise anybody. And that leads me to think that there's something up Michigan's sleeve, that there's going to be some exotic stuff. There's going to be some, toy box, funhouse things that are not going to show up on film. I have to believe that if Moore's going to bother to be transparent about all this, instead of, just springing it on USC on Saturday, that there's got to be something to come off of that.
I thought, Matt, you were going to talk about the USC's history of backup quarterbacks, the top quarterback going down, backup quarterbacks coming in, like Pritchard? Who's the guy from Stanford? Or the kid from, was it Barnes from UCLA way back in the day? I mean, USC has a history of that happening, where some dude comes out of nowhere, balls out of, plays out of his mind in one game and steals one from SC. But that's a route I thought you were going about in history. But I'm not even going there. I'm stepping away from your Darnold. Your Darnold comment was enough. I'm stepping away from the whole thing.
So, all right. Well, what do you guys? So, what do you guys think about Sharon Moore making that comment, though? So, what's interesting, even more interesting, is he made that public announcement before he told the players. The players didn't know. The players found out when the media started asking them questions, and they were unaware that this was announced. So, what do you guys think about Sharon Moore's tactic here?
I mean, it's not like USC wasn't going to prepare to see Orgy in the game. If Warren's struggling, Orgy's probably coming in the second half. It's not like they're going to not be prepared for that kind of a situation, because it wasn't like Warren was killing it, right? So there's a chance that you're going to see Orgy's out. But now I guess USC's had a little more time to take, to realize it. But again, it doesn't mean they're not going to switch it up and bring somebody in, later on the game. Like I said before, Orgy's going to start. Doesn't mean Orgy's going to finish the game. So you had to prepare for it.
Jack Tuttle's return. Watch Jack Tuttle get in this game and get the victory, and then Keith's going to call us. He is.
That
he
would
is.
be.
He was
that
injured.
Would be something.
So he didn't even take part in warmups on Saturday. He was dressed but didn't take parts because he's still injured. So
yeah,
we'll see. I mean, we'll see what the practice, like if anything leaks this week. But I mean, I don't anticipate Jack Tuttle making an entrance this Saturday.
Well, we first had Sam Darnold comparisons. Well, now Brian here with the 5 saying Orgy is 2016 Jalen Hurts with the ceiling of Auburn Cam Newton. So we're just really throwing out. Let's just throw Michael Vick out there. I mean, why not? Like Lamar. I mean, let's just go crazy. But we do appreciate the $5 contribution, and I hope you know that, Brian. We always appreciate that. But
I don't know about you guys, but Alex Orgy looks like Tim Tebow to me.
Hey, get a
there we go.
Pass.
Hey, get those natties, bro. He's gonna do a speech just like Tim Tebow, and you guys are screwed.
Well, he did that speech after the loss, so I don't think we'd be screwed. It would be actually a victory. So
the speech was yesterday.
Oh, okay.
We just don't know about it yet. We don't know about it yet.
So I know we started talking about keys to the game. Earlier, but just to kind of crystallize it. And of course, we do want to encourage everybody to go over in about 40 some minutes to Trojan Conquest Live, to get even more of a take on USC Michigan. However, if you had to pick like one or two things that you think are going to drive a USC victory, we'll start with Matt, because I know Tim chimed in a little bit already, but we'll go to you as well. But Matt, what do you think USC needs to do to beat Michigan here?
So the thing I've already said, and it requires no elaboration at all, just don't give Michigan any freebies or cheapies. That's number one. But beyond that, USC's offensive line has to stand up to Michigan's defensive line. And, obviously dominating would be great, but play to a draw. Don't get beaten outright. Like, make sure that it's a pretty even fight in the trenches, because if we say that it's an even battle, that means that, Michigan's not consistently caving the pocket. Michigan's not consistently creating negative plays, that USC is in, second and medium, third and, if not short yardage, maybe just 3 or 4 yards, such that, you can just throw a 3 or 4 yard pass to move the sticks. As long as USC's offensive line can at least play to a draw against Michigan's defensive front, it likely points to, Miller Moss not being too uncomfortable. It points to USC having some degree of time of possession and therefore field position as well. You're at least getting 2-3 first downs a drive. You punt the ball and you put Michigan inside its own 15-yard line. That gets back to what I've said. If you make Michigan drive 80 yards and you don't hand deliver Michigan any cheap points or short fields, USC, if that's the kind of game that's played, USC probably wins. So it really goes to USC's offensive line, because I love this USC defense. You asked earlier, what's been the change? Well, we went from having a completely incompetent staff to a very professional staff. I mean, that's really the long and short of it. And I'm sold on this staff. It's not blind faith either, because we saw D'Anton Lynn transform a pretty average group of UCLA players into a good, tough, physical defense. And by the way, let's talk about UCLA just for a moment to underscore how great D'Anton Lynn was with
yeah, I know where you're going.
UCLA just got dump trucked by Indiana, losing by 29 at home, giving up 42 points. D'Anton Lynn, that game probably would have been 13-13 heading into the final few minutes. So, the regression we've instantly seen at UCLA only magnifies D'Anton Lynn even more. So, again, it's not blind faith in D'Anton Lynn. There's already a track record that he's accumulating. So I'm sold on USC's defense and its ability to contain Michigan, as long as the USC offensive line can do a reasonably good job. Doesn't have to hit it out of the park. Doesn't have to be Miggy Cabrera 2013. As long as USC, hits a solid double and can, pretty much play even against Michigan's defensive front, I'm pretty confident of a USC victory. But I do need to see this offensive line on the road in the big house perform up to that standard.
Yeah, I liked what Victor Rocha said and kind of go along with. I mean, I already told you guys what my keys were, but Matt, I like what you said, but I'd even go a step further. The thing USC has to watch out for is we're talking about Michigan. We're talking about the defensive line, and if you're going to have a defensive line where you're going to let Graham and Grant just kind of take over the game, that's the key to victory for Michigan. And so Victor was saying, do you think the SC is going to run the ball more? And I think that you have to keep Michigan honest. If they can pin their ears back and come after Miller, Matt, like you said, they don't have to win the battle. I mean, what they got to do is just not let Michigan dominate the battle. If they, like you said a stalemate, play them to the middle, just kind of hold them off, then yeah, I mean, that's good. Or even just lose the battle, but just don't let those guys play like the NFL studs that they're going to be and just kind of run Miller. I'm visions of like Notre Dame last year with Caleb, where just the offensive line was just folding. This offensive line is not giving us any inclination that that's going to be the case in any game this year. But this is probably going to be a hell of a test for them. And if they can play it to, like you said, to a draw or just maybe concede a little bit, but not let them take over this game and run the ball and play balanced football, then that's also going to be very important. So yeah, I think you're right on that.
Yeah, so my three keys of the game are, especially for Michigan, is sustained drives for a dual purpose. One, keeping our defense off the field, giving our defense time to rest, and then keeping Miller Moss off the field, Lincoln Riley's offense off the field. The more that is, the better. The other one is we need pressure. Last week, we got one sack against Arkansas State, against that porous offensive line of Arkansas. We got one sack with our defensive line. The week prior, we got 0 sacks against Texas. We have got to get pressure. We have got to get to Miller Moss to make them uncomfortable. And then my last key to victory is we have to hold them to field goals. We cannot allow touchdowns. So if we can at least hold them to preferably 3 and outs and no points, but if we are going to allow them to get some form of points, let's hold them to field goals. If we can do that, I do believe Michigan can come out with the victory.
USC has flat out dropped or had not secured the ball, by my count, at least 4 to 5 times this year. 2 of those times they ended up scoring a touchdown, but it's a couple, it was close. The other times they did have to settle for field goals. It should have been touchdowns. That's why Miller Moss, I believe he has like 1 or 2 I think he has 2 touchdown passes on the season. That stat is broken. He should have 5 to 6, but
I agree.
I mean, that's why you play the game. You got to make the plays. And like you said, TJ, if SC settling for field, I said that too. I said you can't settle for field goals. You got to push it for touchdowns. That's going to be key for this game for both teams.
Yeah, one thing to even dive more, you guys mentioned earlier the red zone issues, that there were actually some red zone issues on USC's offense. One thing Wink Martindale needs to do is to stop substituting so much, and especially in the red zone. I understand you need to rest guys, and I get that. And hopefully Alex Orgy and Khalil Mullings and the O-line, and hopefully Crippen starts, and they can just kind of keep the defense a little bit more rested. But in the red zone, you can't put the second string in against USC. It's not going to work. It didn't even work against Arkansas freaking State. So you really can't do it against USC. So I think that's the biggest one. Wink Martindale just needs to do a better job of personnel management. And if he does that, and he can obviously, dial up some more exotic pat looks, then I think we're on to something. What I've seen so far, so I think they need to pull some things that we just haven't seen yet, to be honest. But we will see. Before we get to predictions, we do have a 999 here from Justin Shorter. I'm nervous for Michigan seeing this coaching staff look lost and Ward giving Sharon immunity. It's not immunity. It's just what they know right now. It's not full immunity, just for the record, in his contract. When Jim asked for the same thing and he wouldn't do it, I will agree, Ward is the problem at U of M, but Sharon does not have full immunity, just like for the record. But we do want to thank you for your $9.99. TJ, I don't know if you want to touch on that, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us look at this coaching staff and are a bit concerned with the early results. There's a lack of trust in the fan base right now, especially with what we were hearing out of camp and what we're seeing translate to the field. Regarding the contract, it is protection for what is known. So if anything comes to light or anything new that is not, they're already aware of. But here's the thing, right? The notice of allegations has already been seen by Michigan. This is actually a positive, guys. And the reason why it's a positive is because Michigan has already received the notice of allegations. There's nothing new coming to light. Michigan is comfortable moving forward, Sharon Moore, because of what's in this notice of allegations. The NCAA has hit a lot of dead ends on this, their search, which we've gone into over the summer many times. So that's actually a positive. And it does give Michigan the out if anything were to become uncovered in the future. Now, regarding Ward Manuel, we all agree there's issues there. We need a more progressive, innovative athletic director who has the pulse of the current college athletic sphere, because our current one is about 20 years in the past, and he doesn't identify the trends and trajectory of college athletics. That's where we are right now in Michigan.
Yeah, we've straight up said, I mean, I did a show called The Last Dance. It was at this point about a year, 2 months ago. It's called The Last Dance. And I said, 2023, a lot of people, it's going to be their last year. I said Jim Harbaugh was going to the NFL. And I said, Ward Manuel needs to be fired, all of those things. And so we've been calling for this for quite some time. But now we have even more data points to kind of go on.
And to cap that, Ward Manuel's contract is up in 2025. So, and he has not been extended. So, and there's some speculation. They may be looking elsewhere, but that's just speculation and nothing confirmed. So we'll see where that goes. And hopefully we get a new progressive leader in the athletic department.
Knock on wood. Yeah. And there's quite a few. There are some great options. Heck, I'd take Hackett back. Remember Hackett, the guy that hired Jim Harbaugh? Remember him?
Yeah, you know you run shivers up our spines when you say the name Hackett, right? I know we're talking about a different situation, but you said there's words that we don't want to hear. That one probably more than Helton, to be honest with you. But anyway.
Fair enough. So we're at the point in our previews where we give our predictions. And so I know that earlier in the show, we gave kind of the 5 keys for the Michigan side. You guys gave your take on what you think is going to happen. Would love to just hear what your thoughts are on how the game is going to go. Yeah, I'll let you guys tackle it either one.
Go ahead, Tim.
Well, I'm assuming, like I said, my keys to the game, the SC plays clean, right? Penalty wise, which they've done for the majority of this season. There's some misconception. There's a person in the chat that's confused with 90%, 93% scoring in the red zone. That includes field goals. So what my comment was is SC can't settle for field goals. They need to punch it in for touchdowns, and that people are dropping the ball. So just to clarify that your stat is a great stat. And we all know that SC is scoring 37 points per game. This offense isn't struggling. The point is that you're playing a solid defense on the road in a hostile crowd, and you're not going to be able to get away with drops in this game. I think that USC has to punch it in and not settle for 4 or 5 field goals. They need to get touchdowns. So I hope that clarifies it for the chat. As far as a score, how I think the game is going to go out, I think it's going to be your typical game between two very talented teams. I think it's going to be a little bit of a feeling each other out in the first quarter, and there's going to be some growing pains, probably even some little bit conservative play. But I do think if USC plays a clean game, the final score, I think USC is going to hold, actually, because that running's great, but once you get in that red zone, running the ball, it might be an issue for Michigan. I see a lot of field goals, so I'm going with Oh wow, I'm giving my prediction now, not my show. Fine, I'll say it. USC is going to win this game 27-16. I think is the final score.
Okay.
That's
What do you got,
my final
Matt?
score.
So, Tim, just for those who don't watch our USC show here at the Voice of College Football, Tim's more Mr. Sunshine. I'm more dark rain clouds. And, I've lived in Seattle for 20 years, so I guess maybe it's the rain that just kind of gets into my thought process and my metaphors and whatnot. But I do think USC wins. I'm going to say that off the top. But I think it's going to be a really rough, bumpy ride. I do think it's going to be a slugfest. And Michigan fans know when USC and Michigan play in a big game, it's usually a rock fight. 10-3, 1970 Rose Bowl, Bo's first trip to Pasadena for the granddaddy. 14-6 in 1977, 17-10. And of course, that's with USC actually just scored 10 points because USC did fumble on the one, and that was not a touchdown for the Trojans. So really, it was a 10-10 game. So when these guys play, it's usually a rock fight. I mean, it was a rock fight in the first half of the 2007 Rose Bowl before USC broke it open in the second half. So I'm going with a rock fight. And, Tim's point about USC can't settle for field goals, I think there's a nuance there. if USC has a touchdown, like the ball's on your hands, like, Saquon Barkley last night with the Eagles, okay, catch the ball. You got to make that play. But I mean, if Michigan plays great defense and USC has to settle for 3, might not be the worst thing in the world for USC. USC can't shank chip shot field goals the way it did against LSU. So, we saw the Giants and Commanders play an 18-18 tie before Washington then won. Washington didn't score a single touchdown. To me, I'm thinking 15-12 USC. I think we're going to see a lot of 3-pointers in this game. I think we're going to see very few touchdowns. Getting 3 more than 0 is going to matter, I think. So hopefully Lincoln Riley won't have a Dan Lanning or Nick Sirianni moment where he's going for it on 4th and 4 from the 13, doing something really dumb. I don't think Lincoln Riley will do that. So 3 points to me, I think are going to be valuable in this game. It's going to be a 1970s style battle. And with USC being in the Big Ten, I guess there's something poetic about that. So the only other thing is I've already said, turnovers are going to be key. Let me make one added note about turnovers. High impact turnovers. What do we define as a high impact turnover? I think this gets under discussed in football analysis. If you commit a turnover in the red zone, either one, your red zone or the other team's red zone, that directly leads to points. That's a high impact turnover. But if you have 3rd and 15 at your own 30 and you throw a bomb and it gets intercepted, that's an arm punt. That's not a high impact turnover. So really, when we talk about turnovers, don't just look at the numbers. Are there high impact turnovers that create a 10-point swing, a 7-point swing? Those are the kinds of things that we really need to look at as going to be the kinds of moments that are going to decide this game if they happen. And if none of them happen, then it's advantage USC.
Did you give a score, Matt?
15-12. 15-12 USC.
Do you think this is SEC?
That's almost what the real MVP.
That's Les Miles, Nick Saban, 2011. Yes.
The real MVP, resident provocateur and regular caller, said 9-6. So you guys are thinking
this could be the ugliest win ever. I'll take it as long as we have one more point.
How many points did Texas score?
31.
Was that in Texas or was that in Michigan?
It was in Michigan, and Texas is better. Texas is better than USC right now.
But Texas isn't a couple touchdowns better than USC on offense. Sorry, that's incorrect. I'm not talking about the defense. I'm talking about the offense. You're saying Texas is a couple touchdowns better than USC on offense?
I'll settle for a 3-2 win. Little Auburn, Mississippi State, 2008.
Yeah, anyone's going to settle for a win.
I'll take 6-4 Iowa, Penn State back in the day.
There we go.
Well, I know you guys soon have to go prep for your show, so let's rock through our predictions here real quick. TJ, we'll start with you on how you think the game's going to go.
So I'm currently 3-0 in my predictions for Michigan, and what I am predicting this Saturday is a 28-17 USC victory. That's my prediction.
Hope you're 4-0.
Yeah, I don't. I'll take my L. I would like to lose. I'll take my L. Hope Michigan wins though.
I'm going 23-17 USC. I just don't think we're going to be able to keep them to that magic 20 number. And I do think they're going to cobble enough together with Alex Orgy, but I just don't think it's going to be quite enough. But hey, we've laid out the 5 ways that Michigan can pull it off. So stay tuned, because I don't think this is going to be the 50. Somebody predicted 52-6. I don't think that's happening. So the truth is somewhere in the middle, and I think we'll be. It's going to be a great game, guys. I'm looking forward to it. So we really want to thank both of you for coming on. So I definitely want to encourage all. We have multiple hundreds of people watching this across Michigan channel, USC channel, Twitter, and so I want to encourage every single one of you to go over in about a half an hour to Trojan Conquest Live, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, and check it out. Let's put the link. I don't know, Jackson's here, but I'll put the link here as well for everybody to directly just head straight there. But let's get a final thought, and where can people find you? And we'll start with Matt, since we started with you before. We'll finish. We'll start with you to wrap up here too.
Well, let's just give our lineup for here on the USC channel at the Voice of College Football. So obviously coming up tonight in half an hour, but then we're going to do our call-in show usually on Fridays, but Tim's going to be flying up to Ann Arbor on Friday. So we're going to do our call-in show Wednesday night. That's tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Tim and I are going to be on probably for 2 hours. So that's our call-in show. And then you want to come on over to our written work. Look at our written work over at Trojans Wire. That's trojanswire.usatoday.com. And we're working with Wolverines Wire all this week. So these two College Wire network sites. Yeah, Isaiah Hull of Wolverines Wire does a great job over there. Nice. So we're collaborating with him. He's asking us questions. We're asking him questions. So the answers are getting published at each of our sites all this week. So Trojans Wire, Wolverines Wire, part of the USA Today College Wire Network. Give us a read. Tell your friends.
All right. So thanks for joining us, Matt. And I'll be watching you in just a few minutes here.
Thank you, guys, and we really enjoyed being on your show.
Thanks for having us. All right, and let's go to Tim now. For your final thought, and where could people find you? And again, I'm encouraging everybody, please go ahead. I put the link in there to Trojans Wire. Check out the written work and check out the show in less than a half an hour. Tim, floor is yours.
Well, I just said this is a really special event for me. As soon as I found out USC was entering the Big Ten, the first school I thought of was Michigan. Just being able to play University of Michigan, blue blood, so much history, you know. It's funny, not that many games, but there's a lot of history between these two schools. And it's just, you know, two private schools. Well, sorry. So, but anyway, sorry, my bad. Two schools that okay, I think of you guys compared to some of the other schools, I'm not going to name as more of a private school than you are. But appreciate you guys having me on. But you know, I got family in Michigan, and I love Michigan. I've followed. Talk about your helmet games. This is gonna be one of the all-time helmet games. And when I heard USC was playing in Ann Arbor for obvious first time in my lifetime, going all the way back to the 1950s, I knew I had to be there. So I think it's gonna be a great game. I'm excited. I'm gonna be on the sideline shooting pictures. So if you want to find me, the first place is always at Trojans Wire. There's gonna be I have a lot of photo galleries. So even if you're a Michigan fan, come check it out. I'll have plenty of pictures of Michigan as well in those galleries. You can also find me on Instagram, Tim_Prangley, again, where I post a lot of my game pictures. And then you could find me on Twitter, same thing, Tim_Prangley. And then Matt covered all the stuff at the Voice of College Football. So yeah, be a great game. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Yeah, excellent show. Great job, and looking forward to this Saturday.
And if you guys are there, you got either one of you guys going to the game?
No, I won't be there. And
I'm still unpacking. Okay, right? I'm in Virginia unpacking.
That's fair. All right. Well, listen, we'll talk after the game. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thank you.